feminism hasn't done the best job of keeping us visible either. There is a history of silencing women. They classified it as like a illness, right? Having hysteria when women were just couldn't be controlled, right? There's a lot of erasure in that history of transgender men. Trans men are insisted to be women. And a lot of the women that were hysterical at that time, they were transgender. But at the time, there was even more limited information about being trans, and that being just something conceivable for us. One of the greatest challenges I think we're facing is the rise of TERF ideology, or trans exclusionary radical feminism. The rise of this type of feminism should be way more alarming than I think it currently is. They really hate us. They really, really don't like us. Almost more so, I would sometimes say, than cisgender men, because in their minds, we are choosing to be the enemy. Most people don't know that trans men and trans masculine people have the highest rates of depression and suicide rates out of the entire community. One of the things that 100% contributes to that is this invisibility and erasure that we live in. When you have a trans masculine experience, many of us, not all, but many of us often have community ties with the lesbian community prior to transitioning. Many of us lose that community when we transition. So that's a part of that isolation and disconnection that we experience because of leaning into your authenticity, right? Communities of color, particularly the community that I come from, there is a lot of historical trauma, ancestral trauma, and depression because of that already. Adding transgender to that is just another layer. There's a big population of us in the Latinx community that are racially mixed, and the way that we were mixed in that way was not because we chose to. Spanish colonizers came, did what they did. We've experienced a lot of loss of identity already, particularly with our indigenous roots, and how that relates to our understanding of gender and our relationship with the land. When you're a trans guy and you're looking for examples of masculinity, where are you going to look for those examples of healthy masculinity and patriarchy? There's a lot of machismo, if you've heard that word before, or essentially toxic masculinity in these communities. When you look at indigenous cultures around the world, many men have long hair, right? And it's not something that is associated with femininity necessarily. It's associated with spirituality most of the time. It's those kinds of things that, that understanding that has been lost even in my own community. And that adds to, these challenges that I face in Western white society, especially. I want you to look in the mirror, and I want you to ask yourself when you realized you were a girl, or when you realized you were a boy. There was a moment for that for everyone, even if you're cisgender, right? And then I want you to think about, what was the first time that you were told or you realized that you were doing it wrong?